Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Thursday night, March 23rd, 2023, and tonight is a special presentation from the Passover Seder to Israel's 75th anniversary. Just a housekeeping note, after tonight, we will not be together for 3 Thursday nights. A week from tonight, I will be out of town, and then the next 2 Thursday nights is Pesach. We will resume after Passover on Thursday night at 8 p.m., and then when we get to May, we will come back to the normal 7 p.m. and continue. Also, let me mention, this coming week, Sunday and Monday morning, we will not be together. Thursday and Friday morning next week, we will not be together. But we will be together tomorrow morning and the next week, Tuesday and Wednesday morning. All of these dates are in the email, on our website, on our Facebook page. Please check it out and make sure you have the right day and the right time. There are 2 aspects to the religious gesture in Judaism: strict objective discipline and exalted subjective romance. Both are indispensable. For example, the commandment of Shema Yisrael, requires on the one hand an inner act of surrender to the will of the Almighty. On the other hand, this subjective experience of submission must be translated into a physical act of reciting the words of the Shema. Behavioral patterns are always accompanied by corresponding worthy emotions. Judaism is first a discipline and second a romance. These words of the Rav, Rabbi J, express a powerful and fundamental underpinning to our lives as Jews. Tonight we will explore the nexus of the discipline, the actions of the Passover Seder, and the romance, the emotions and the feelings these actions should arouse and elicit. And we will then connect this theme with a deeper appreciation for celebrating the 75th anniversary of the founding of Medinat Yisrael, the modern state of Israel, which we will celebrate on Yom HaAtzma'ut, Israel Independence Day, on Wednesday, April 26th. And I am deeply grateful to Rabbi J. Schacter for collecting many of the sources that I will share with you tonight. What should I be feeling during the Pesach Seder? There is a dialectic, a continual shifting of focus in every action we perform at the Seder. And this dialectic is pithily expressed in the famous line in the Haggadah, Avadim hayinu, we were slaves, Vayotzienu Hashem, and God freed us, God redeemed us, God liberated us. These 2 themes, Avdus, slavery, persecution, and Cherus, freedom and redemption, these 2 themes are interwoven at every point in the Seder. I'll share with you just a few short examples. On the Seder plate, we have a food called charoses. It's a mixture of fruits, nuts, spices, wine. Now, its place on the Seder plate is symbolic, which means that it is part of the story that we tell of Exodus. And also, during the Seder, we eat it as part of korech, the Hillel sandwich, where we eat it together with matzah and maror and a little bit of charoses. Why charoses? What does it represent? Why is it at the Seder? The Talmud asks this question, Masechta Pesachim, Rabbi Levi Omer, Rabbi Levi says, Zecher letapuach. It is a reminder to us of the apple trees. What does that mean, the apple trees? Rashi explains, Shehayu yoldus b'neihem sham below otzav. The Jewish women, while they were in Egypt, they would give birth to their children in groves of apples, in apple orchards. And they would be able to do so surrounded by this beautiful, sweet-smelling atmosphere of the apple orchards easily and without any pain. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, Rabbi Yochanan says, Zecher letit. It's a reminder of the mortar. According to Rashi, Zecher letapuach, the reminder of the apple orchard, it reminds us of the growth and the resilience and the strength of the Jewish people leading to their redemption and freedom. Zecher lecherus, freedom, liberation, redemption. Zecher letit, a reminder of the mortar, the back-breaking work that the Jews had to do to fabricate bricks and then to use them to build. That's a reminder of the avdus, the slavery, the persecution, the humiliation. Now here's the thing. There are numerous recipes for charoses. Everyone has their own version, a little bit different from everyone else's. But if you look at all of the recipes that there are, basically they fall into one of two categories. Either it is a thick mixture of ground apples and nuts and red wine, maybe some other things, but it's a thick mixture. Zecher letit, a reminder of the mortar, looks like mortar, used to put together, connect bricks to each other. Or a mixture of chopped apples and fruits and nuts and spices that are mentioned in Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, written by Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, which is the expression of the great love between God and the Jewish people. And so you'll find there things like chopped apples and pomegranates and dates and figs and grapes and almonds and cinnamon. Zecher letapuach, a reminder of the sweet-smelling apple orchard. Now, those two opinions that I mentioned to you are in our Talmud, the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud. In the Jerusalem Talmud, there's a third opinion. The Jerusalem Talmud says, Zecher ledam. It's a reminder, we have charoses as a reminder of the dam, the blood. Which dam? Which blood? In the Jerusalem Talmud, there are two classic commentators. One is named Pnei Moshe, and the other is named Karban Ha'eda. Pnei Moshe says, which blood are we talking about? The first plague, the first of the 10 plagues, where the water of the Egyptians turned to blood. The beginning of the redemption, the first time that God demonstrated his power and his mastery over nature, which led to the ultimate redemption and freedom of the Jewish people. Zecher ledam is something that we celebrate. It's a reminder of the process that led us to freedom and redemption. The Karban Ha'eda says, Zecher liyeladim. It's a reminder of the Jewish children, the blood, Nebuch, God forbid, the blood of Jewish children that was spilled by Paro. Zecher la'avdus. It's a reminder of the persecution, the bitterness, the suffering. So which is it? Is charoses a reminder of the slavery, or is it a reminder of the freedom? And the answer is, it's both. We are meant, as we see it and as we taste it, to experience both emotions simultaneously intertwined, avdus and cherus, to vibrate, to vacillate back and forth, so that our experience and our emotions encompass both. I'll share another example. At the Pesach Seder, we drink 4 cups of wine. What kind of wine should we drink at the Seder? Well, you could drink any kind of wine or grape juice that you want. Any color, any type, any variety, whatever you want is fine. However, the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, says, mitzvah lachzar achar yayin edom. It is preferable, it's a mitzvah, it's not required, but it's preferable to choose red wine. Red wine is better than white wine at the Seder. Why? Because generally, red wine is higher quality than white wine. But not always. So the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isserles, adds, Im ein halavim meshubach mimenu. You should choose red unless you have a white wine that's a better quality. So according to the Ramah, the reason we have wine is a symbol of our freedom. It is something that we're celebrating. We want the best wine. So whatever is the best bottle that you have, that's what you should take. Presumably it's red, because red generally, this is an oversimplification, red generally is a better, higher quality wine. But if you happen to have a bottle of white wine that's better, choose that, according to the Ramah, because the reason that we have wine is to celebrate. Says the Taz, one of the classic commentators to the Shulchan Aruch, it's not dependent on the quality. You should choose the red wine preferably, not because it's better quality, but because of the color. Because our rabbis tell us in the Midrash, this terrible, horrible nightmare that Paro needed to bathe in the blood of Jewish babies. So what is the wine at the Seder? Is it a reminder of celebrating freedom? Or is it a reminder of the terrible persecution we endured? The answer is, it's both. Marar, the bitter herbs. Clearly, the bitter herbs remind us of slavery and persecution. We say it explicitly in the Haggadah. Marar zeh shanu ochlin al shomah. Why do we have marar at the Seder? Al shum shemaru hamitzrim es chayav v'sedim b'mitzrayim. Because the Egyptians embittered our lives in Egypt. It's a symbol of persecution. It's a reminder of slavery. Sounds obvious. But listen to this. This is the Or HaChaim, one of the great classic medieval commentators to the Torah. Listen to the reason that the Or HaChaim gives for why we have marar at the Seder. The Or HaChaim says, when you eat roasted meat, remember, the centerpiece of the Seder, when the Beis HaMikdash was standing, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem was standing, was the Karban Pesach, the Paschal offering, which was grilled lamb. It was delicious. Says the Or HaChaim, if you're going to have grilled meat, it tastes better if you have something a little sharp with it. It makes it taste better. According to Or HaChaim, the marar is a condiment. It's like lettuce and mustard on a hamburger. It's like spicy slaw on a taco. It makes it taste better. That's why we have marar. Marar reminds us of the celebration to make the meal better and more enjoyable. So which is it? Is marar a symbol of our slavery? Or is it something to elevate our celebration? And the answer is, it is both. One final example. The central food at the Seder. The central symbol of the entire holiday is matzah. Why do we have matzah? Well, the dichotomy of matzah is evident in the text of the Haggadah itself, because at the very beginning of the evening we say, famously, Ha lachma anya di achla avasana ba'ar de Mitzrayim. This is the bread of poor people. This matzah, we hold it up. This is the bread, the poor people, that we ate when we were slaves in Egypt. Matzah is a symbol of avdus, of slavery and persecution. All we had was matzah. A little bit later in the Seder, we say, Matzah zu shanu ochlin al shumah. Why do we have matzah on Pesach? First of all, why even ask the question? We already answered the question before, but we give a different answer. Al shum shelo hispik but sekam shel avoseinu lahachmitz because our people, our forefathers and foremothers, did not have enough time to wait for their dough to rise, because God was in such a hurry to redeem us, to take us out. Matzah attests to the redemption, to the haste of the liberation that we enjoyed. So what is matzah? Is matzah a symbol of avdus, or is it a symbol of cherus? And the answer is, it's both intertwined at the same time. Now, these are just a few examples, but every element of the Seder has both of these themes intertwined. So what should we be experiencing for each one of these actions? What should our emotion be as we go through each one of these and every single part of the Seder? It should be what is the human condition. At all times, we experience joy and challenge simultaneously. That's what it means to be human. That's the message of the Seder. The reality of and the ability to experience joy and challenge simultaneously. And not only is the entire night this dichotomy of these two themes, but every individual element also contains both avdus and cherus. Now, this profound dialectic occurs not only at the Passover Seder, the first and the second night of Pesach. It applies the entire Chag. The entire holiday we experience this. Every day of Pesach, and likewise Shavuos and Sukkos, we have a mitzvah. A mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov, to rejoice on Yom Tov. How do we fulfill the mitzvah of rejoicing on Yom Tov? Talmud says, Chayav anam l'sameach banav b'nei beisa b'regel. A person is obligated to ensure that he and his spouse and his children, every member of the household, is rejoicing on Yom Tov, every single day of Yom Tov. How do we achieve that? B'meh mesamcham. How do we achieve that each individual family member should be rejoicing on Yom Tov? Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, B'zman shebeis hamikdash kayim, during the years when the Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple, was standing in Jerusalem, ein simcha ela b'basar. The only real joy was eating meat. But which meat? Not any meat. Shenemar, v'zavakta shlamim, v'achalta sham, v'samachta l'fnei Hashem elokecha. They would offer offerings, sacrifices, which we learn about in this week's Torah portion, the Parsha Vayikra. And that would bring joy. That would bring gladness. So the only joy that we're referring to with this mitzvah is to be able to enjoy partaking of the karbanos, of the sacrifices. Nowadays, we do not have the Beis Hamikdash, we do not have karbanos, we do not have the meat that comes from an offering. Ein simcha ela b'yayin. The only joy we have comes from wine. On Yom Tov, each day of Yom Tov, you should drink a little bit of wine, of course, if it's healthy for you, and in moderation. But it is a mitzvah, every day of Yom Tov, to have a little bit of wine. Okay, that's what the Talmud says. But when this subject gets codified by the Rambam, Maimonides, we find something very strange. Because the Rambam quotes the beginning part of this. There's the mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov. How do we fulfill this mitzvah? The Rambam says, Ochlim basar v'shosin yayin. We eat meat and we drink wine. Now, obviously, eating meat is only if you like meat. If you don't want to eat meat, you're not forced to eat meat. We're talking about a person who enjoys eating meat. But hold on a minute. How can the Rambam say that you fulfill the mitzvah of simcha, of rejoicing in Yom Tov, by eating meat? That only referred to the karbanos. We don't have the karbanos today. What kind of fulfillment is there by eating meat if it's not the meat of the karban? Listen, please, to the answer given by the Bach, Rabbi Yoel Sirkis. He says, the ikar mitzvah simcha, the main mitzvah of rejoicing, is only when the Beis HaMikdash is standing, with partaking from one of the sacrifices, one of the offerings. But today, when we do not have that particular type of meat, it's not the main way of celebrating, but it's also celebrating. In other words, there is something that the Bach refers to as full simcha, 100% joy. That's only when the Beis HaMikdash is standing, the Holy Temple is in Jerusalem, and there are sacrifices and offerings, and we're eating from this lofty, exalted food. But today, we don't have a korban, but you can have a nice meal. You can have a delicious roast if you enjoy it. It's not 100% because it's not sanctified, it's not sacred, it's not lofty, but it's still a good meal. In the words of another one of the commentaries, it is partial simcha, and partial joy is also joy. You don't have to wait for the Beis HaMikdash to be rebuilt and the Messiah to come before you experience joy. What kind of life would that be if a person said to themselves, I'm not going to be able to experience joy unless it's complete, unless it's 100%, unless it's perfect? A person would live their life being miserable. So we have to be able to say, it's not 100%, but I can still experience joy. And from this comes a worldview. We live our lives at the intersection of joy and challenge. That is central to the human condition. And our task is to do the best we can where we are. It's not 100%, but we still feel simcha tzas, a little bit of joy. The Seder is not 100% redemption. We also feel a certain amount of avdus and challenge and difficulty. That's life. But we do feel some freedom, we do feel some redemption, even if it's not complete. This is how we approach life. In the midst of somewhere in between, to seek and to find joy. In just a few weeks, we will celebrate Israel's 75th anniversary. A great and joyous celebration. And I hope that you will join me in celebrating with a full heart on Yom HaAtzma'ut, Israel's Independence Day. But sometimes we get caught up with the challenges and we don't focus on the blessings. Sometimes we feel, and I would say especially this year, especially right now, we feel, listen, 75 years? Shouldn't we have come further than we are already? Shouldn't we have surmounted the challenges that we face already today? Iran is closer to a nuclear bomb than ever before. Terrorism appears to be on the rise, and worst of all, the much, much worst of all, the internal fighting that is going on today in Israel between Jew and Jew, protests and counter-protests leading to hysteria and even, God forbid, violence of Jew against Jew that's happening today. How can we celebrate Israel with a full heart, especially this year? It's a serious question, and it calls for a serious and deep answer. And Rabbi Yehuda Amital provides just such an answer. At every Jewish wedding, we recite Sheva Brachos, the 7 blessings. The 7 blessings by which we bless this newly married couple. And the last one goes as follows. Blessed are you, God. Asher baras hasam v'simcha, you created joy and gladness. You created a groom and a bride, and singing and laughter and all kinds of wonderful things. Meheira Hashem Elokeinu, may it speedily occur, God, Yishama ba'arei Yehuda b'chutzos Yerushalayim, that it should be heard in the streets of the cities of Israel and in the streets of Jerusalem. Kol sason v'kol simcha, kol chasan v'kol kala, the sound of the rejoicing, the sound of gladness, the sound of the groom, the sound of the bride. Kol mitzalos chasanim ichupasam, the sound of the raucous, exuberant celebrations of weddings. Una'arim mimishtei neginasam, and from the meals where there is loud and beautiful singing going on. All of that beautiful stuff, that's what we should be able to hear in the streets of Jerusalem. Now those words come from Yirmiyahu Hanavi, the prophet Jeremiah. Yirmiyahu, the prophet Jeremiah, prophesied and witnessed the destruction of the first temple, and he also prophesied the rebuilding of the temple. Listen to the original words. Ka amar Hashem, this is the prophecy of Yirmiyahu Hanavi, the prophet Jeremiah. This is what Hashem says. Od yishama b'makom hazeh. It will again be heard in this place. Which place? Asher atem omrim charavhu me'ein adam u'me'ein behema. This place about which right now we say it's desolate, it's empty, it's destroyed, because he's talking about during the time when Jerusalem had been destroyed by Bavel, by the Babylonians. But in this place that is now destroyed, Yirmiyahu says, Od Yishama, it will again happen that you will hear in the streets of Yerushalayim, which right now are empty and desolate and destroyed. Kol sasan v'kol simcha, kol chasan v'kol kala. There will be a time in the future when we'll hear the sounds of joy, and hear the sounds of gladness, and hear the sounds of the bride and the groom. When will that be? Kol omrim hodu es Hashem tzvakos, ki tov Hashem ki le'olam chazdo, meviim toda, beis Hashem, ki ashuv es shvus ha'aretz k'varishona. When will we hear rejoicing in Jerusalem? When God returns all of the exiles to Israel, and when the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, is rebuilt in Jerusalem. Then that sound that during the destruction is not to be heard. Now it's only destruction and desolate and despair, but it will again be when the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, all of these joyous sounds. Hold on a minute. I hope you noticed that our rabbis, in writing the text of the blessing, changed the ending, right? The blessing that we say at a wedding, that the rabbis wrote, is a paraphrase, but it changes the ending, because Yirmiyahu said that we're only going to hear joyous sounds when the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, and when the entire Jewish people are regathered into Israel in the Messianic era. But our rabbis say, when will we hear these sounds? When there is joy and singing at weddings and rejoicing at weddings. Why did they change the words from the prophet? Rav Yehuda Amital gives the following answer. If you look at the passage in Yirmiyahu, it's all or nothing. Either it's desolate and empty and destroyed and there's no joy at all, or the only option is full redemption. The Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. The entire Jewish people is gathered in. It's either A or B. There's nothing in between. Either complete joy or complete mourning and sadness. We are in mourning and sadness. We're not going to be able to have joy until it's all done, until it's perfect. Our rabbis understood that's all very well for the prophet Yirmiyahu, but we can't live like that. We're living in this intermediate stage when, yes, there is a tremendous amount of progress in Israel. Yes, beautiful. There are lots of people. There's rebuilt much of Jerusalem, but the Beis HaMikdash is not rebuilt, but the entire Jewish people is not gathered in. If we wait till it's perfect, If we wait till it's 100%, we're never going to get there. How are we going to live? We will give up to despair. So our rabbis understood that they had to mediate the words of Yirmiyahu. They had to alter the words of Yirmiyahu to address our life today. We have to be able to find a way to celebrate when it's not perfect, when it's not 100%. Because otherwise, we will never celebrate at all. And so therefore, our rabbis say that even before the ultimate redemption of Yirmiyahu, when it's perfect, we celebrate the intermediate step in which we find ourselves now. There are weddings in Jerusalem. There's joy and singing and laughter in Jerusalem. So we celebrate. We're in the middle of the journey. We refer to the state of Israel today, we say this in the prayer that we say every Shabbos, as Reishis Tzmichas Geulasenu. I've shared with you from Rabbi J. Schacter before. What we assert with those words is, we're not at the process, we're not at redemption yet. We're not there. We're not even at Reishis Geulasenu. We're not even at the beginning of the redemption. We're at Reishis Tzmichas Geulasenu. We're at the beginning of the sprouting of what will become redemption. We're not there yet. We're at the beginning. We're in the middle. I heard something amazing from my Rebbe, Rabbi Moshe Heinemann. In our prayers in the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, we say, "Blessed are you, God, Hamachazir Shechinaso L'Tzion, who returns his Shechina, the divine presence, to Zion." Those words are in the present tense. Who is returning his presence to Zion. Now, that prayer has been said for over 2,000 years. In what sense, during the Spanish Inquisition, could it be said that God is in the process of returning his presence to Zion? In what sense, during the Holocaust, could it be said that God is in the process of returning his presence to Zion? Rabbi Shimon Schwab gave the following answer. Imagine to yourself you're walking down the street in a downtown area, and you see they're building a massive skyscraper. And they put up a fence around the area so people don't fall in, they don't get too close. But you look through a little hole, and they're going to build this massive, giant skyscraper, and you look inside on the other side of the fence, and what do you see? You see a hole. A hole. They're digging down deeper and deeper. So you say to yourself, I thought they were building a skyscraper. They should be building up. Why are they digging down? If you're building a skyscraper, you should be rising up. Why are you digging further down? The answer, of course, is the taller you want a building to be, the deeper the foundation has to be. You have to start with the foundation. Small building needs a small foundation, but a big building needs a deeper foundation. That is what is happening now. It appears that it's a hole. It appears that it's deeper. It appears that it's worse during these terrible periods in our history that I mentioned. But in fact, Hamachazir Shechinaso L'Tzion, God is in the process. That is part of the process of returning, present tense, ongoing, returning God's presence. And so, excuse me, I just lost my page. We're in the middle of this journey. But we have to be able to have optimism and joy in Israel now, even if it's incomplete. Because with this understanding, we focus on the miracles and the successes and the beauty in Israel today, all of which are truly manifest. Yes, there is avdus mixed with cherus. Yes, there is only simcha tzas, partial joy. But the Seder and the Yom Tov of Pesach prepare us with a worldview, prepare us to look for the blessings and to joyously see them and celebrate them. Kol mitzalos chasonim michupasam unarim miginasam. The sound of the joyous celebration of weddings in Jerusalem. It's happening right now, tonight, right now in Israel. There are weddings happening all over the country. And so rejoice and be grateful. Another prophecy. Ko amar Hashem tzvakos. This is what God says. Od yeshvu zakenim uzakenos berachovos Yerushalayim. There will again come a time when elderly men and elderly women will be sitting in the streets of Jerusalem. Mishanto v'ish mishanto biyado mirov yamim. A person will be walking with a cane because they're elderly. They need a cane to be able to walk. Urachovos ha'ir yimolu yeladim v'yelados. And the streets of Jerusalem will be filled with young boys and young girls, mesachakim berachovosea, playing in the streets of Jerusalem. That's happening now. Now that's not the prophecy of Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu prophesied the complete redemption. We're not there yet. That was the prophecy of Zechariah. And Zechariah's prophecy has come true in our day. We experience it, we witness it, we enjoy it, and we need to see it and celebrate it. And so even if we can't celebrate Yirmiyahu's vision today, the 100% complete redemption, even if we can't do that, we can, and therefore we must, celebrate Zechariah's vision. And hopefully with this understanding, the deeper experience of the Passover Seder, both the discipline and the romance, the actions and the emotions, and the path to being able to celebrate genuine joy on Yom Tov, even if it is not 100%, that should prepare us to celebrate Israel with a full heart, focused on the bountiful blessings we enjoy today. I want to wish every single one of us Chag Sameach, a very happy Passover. Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people lives forever. We'll celebrate Israel together on Yom HaAtzma'ut. My friends, thank you so much for joining tonight. I want to wish you a beautiful evening, a fantastic Shabbos, and a joyous, inspiring, transcendent Pesach. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.